ticks. Even if you don't know it's nervous, it is a reactor to stressors, usually. Stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like chewing your
Well,
nails as a kid, stuff like that.
oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I just like I don't know, I'm peeling it off. I don't like it sitting there. But so
Oh,
back to that LSD subject though.
yeah.
Now that I'm more prepared, have you done it?
I done LSD? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
you
mean, not
what you
to,
asked?
yeah, not to be stereotypical
No,
because
no, 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 no. I have done LSD and like two research chemicals.
to your
Uh,
research chemicals.
Other than that, I have no other experience with tripping.
What?
I have never done mushrooms, for
Never
instance.
done mushrooms?
Never
Have
done
you
mushrooms.
experienced like ego death?
Uh, I have. Yeah.
Uh, well, so you remember last time we talked, I was talking about my idea of a self-awareness sort of hierarchical pyramid.
Yeah.
I've been giving that some thought. Like, it can't be a pyramid if there's no end, right? Like, and how do you define what end and what end is good for other people? And I'm thinking a more permanent, non-aided ego death would be towards the top. You know what I'm talking about? Because you can get that without drugs. I mean,
Yeah. There are gurus or whatever who
yeah,
achieve
yeah.
it through religion. There are, people who achieve it through their job or something like, or
Well, I mean, people come in all shapes and sizes. I don't know how many people are experiencing a form of ego death and transcendence, and if I make an awareness hierarchy of where you are, and this feeds into this sort of like a skill tree almost. Because I think there are definitely steps, you go from a small world and your parents to a large world and different effectors on different people, and their actions are based on what effects are happening to them, and those effects might be directly or indirectly related to you, and etc. I don't know. I just spitball that idea, but I can't see how someone would obtain some form of ego death through a job.
depends on the job.
Depends on the job.
The job.
Speaking of jobs, where did we end up with the sausage factory?
Uh, we applied to Einstein bagels instead.
Huh. Well,
Yeah.
that's a completely different direction.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was that they didn't get the job or not, whatnot, but
And how?
we haven't had a long discussion about it yet.
Yeah. And how did you feel about someone asking you about your process, your artistic process?
Oh, you mean like Bongo or what?
Well, yeah, just in general earlier.
Um, I mean, like I said, I'm an art major, so I get in progress critiques and people asking about my artistic process like daily. So I will be able to explain my artistic process to Bongo probably if I just get in there and show him. Um, Everything, I don't know. There's obviously steps to creating anything.
Well,
Explaining
yeah, yeah.
explaining an artistic process is, well, here's my tips and tricks for what I do, and if you frame it that way, it's always helpful. The problem is when
Yeah,
people say,
yeah.
"No, this is the best way
Well,
because
yeah,
this is my way."
definitely not, because it's obscenely subjective. And I mean, it's a creative process, so
Well,
any
you'd
creative
be
process
surprised
has a
how
lot
many
to,
out there really truly are that way. Like,
or very,
no, this
very
is the
like,
right way to do it.
huh. So like, there's ones out there that are just following a formula.
Yeah, following the formula. And because okay, so it's especially applicable to something like metalworking because it is essentially science that you're doing. Like you have to understand some laws of physics to and some of the laws of physics at play to be able to even really do it. You can't just say like you couldn't give a kid a piece of metal and say, "All right, make a sword." They wouldn't really know what to do, where to go. You have to
Well,
follow
yeah,
certain
yeah.
steps, right?
Well,
But
you
that doesn't
know,
make it right or wrong. It's just that your way is better for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely requires, that's, may your mileage may vary.
Well, and you
Um,
experience this a lot in playing a game like RuneScape where people are min-maxing everything. Oh, well, it's faster if I do this. Well, sometimes I don't want to go faster. I want to do it slower, you know?
well,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to take the time and maybe I'll see and I'd like take the care to see and notice some minute details that I may not if I had gone quicker. But it
Well,
constantly moving into like fast production and multiples and like being able to like just produce massive quantities of your art because that's what sells.
well, yeah. There's definitely that, and that's that market play at hand. I will say with the min max situation and the what works for you won't work for someone else. Um, sometimes like I get it, like oh, through tick a tree is going to be the most XP. Who says I really want to focus down and do that, even if it becomes muscle memory? You know,
Yeah.
like that's its own thing. The formulaic. Uh, I had a boss. He had a great question he would ask, and who knows who he stole it from. I like to say, true art, true anything is stealing something and hiding that you stole it in a way. And that's not even my saying. I stole that quote. He would ask me. He goes, "Yeah, one of my favorite interview questions is to ask someone to describe how they would tell someone to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich."
Oh yes. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you're depending where you're at on things and how I would say how aware you are of people's skill level, and this ties right into your sword situation. I said it when he asked me. I said, "What? Tell him to get some peanut butter and some jelly and put it on bread, and there you go." And he goes, "Okay, now watch this." And he goes step by step by step. Open cabinet, get jar, open jar, grab butter knife, you know, step by step by step. That's the same thing with the sword. You're basically, when you say make a sword, you're basically saying make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And if someone has no inkling of what a sword is, they have no clue. So,
Well,
yeah.
you could also say, well, I just fired some neurons in my brain and the shit happened.
Yeah, I mean,
you
that's
know,
that's the deep bottom end of the process. Yeah, if you want to be the most technically correct you could, yeah,
if you break down further and
random.
further, okay, well, this specific neuron had, like this specific electron in that neuron, like you can break
Well,
it
not
down to the
even.
atom if you want. It's
Yeah, yeah, and
possible.
then you know what I think, since we were talking about time and perception of time, this specific neural pathway that was built when I was a child. If you want to be 100% specific,
Yeah,
100%
give
of the
it a
time.
date.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I first saw a sword when I was 8 years old, and
yeah.
it had this
what what
curvature.
what nurture impacts in your life caused you to be this way to make a decision the way you made it.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly in depth, and something to think about there too. What
That
happens
we
if?
are literally just machines and
Oh, yeah, definitely. We are,
ones and zeros,
little.
but on a biological level instead of a
Yeah, yeah.
digital level.
Well, yeah. Well, it's still, I mean, the ones and zeros are an interpreted situation. I mean, at the base level, it's just like the human brain. It's electricity following pathways rapidly at a certain movement. The one and zeros, that's like assembler like level. It's just on off. Um, so what I'll say there, and you got into a technical thing. What happens when we figure out the brain enough and we can attach wires and find that you learned about swords at 7.5 on June 3rd of '94? You know,
Yeah,
what about
yeah.
then?
Access the stored data. Well, and also, will we end up downloading? Have you seen that movie, the like, oh, not movie, TV show, where he's like in the afterlife and like he died in a car crash, and they
Wasn't that on
upload. That's
yeah,
what it's called.
Upload? Wasn't that on like Amazon or something?
It was Amazon or Netflix or whatever. I don't know,
I'm
but
yeah,
yes,
I'm pretty sure it was Amazon. I saw commercials. I never went into it because I was really let down. They had another series and it was about like this woman getting in an accident, and it had the guy from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, the lawyer guy. Fuck, I forget his name, but Odenkirk. And I was like, I
uh,
like Odenkirk. Let's see his work on this. And I was like, this is it tried to be obscenely deep, and then I don't know, way out there. Like I think you'd have to watch it just on a trip.
uploaded is comical, but
Yeah, yeah,
tackling a deep
yeah.
subject. It's a little bit more lighthearted rather than trying to be too edgy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this wasn't a whole thing. I mean, but it was one of the first things they'd put out, and it just I don't know. It said to me, "Hey, I don't think their studio's gonna put out stuff that's as I don't know, not that well, you know." Which was a real snap judgment, and I think we've discussed that too before, where those sort of snap judgments exist for a reason, you know. So I hadn't really touched anything that came out of their studio since. Um, but I'm not even talking about like that idea of uploading, you know. Though, you know, if we're just grabbing random neurons and tracking them all the way back to when you saw something, so we can figure out how you figured something out. I mean, at that point, how soon beyond that do we just have a copy of you? Who, as you said, can mass produce that art, you know, as we're just feeding into the algorithm that is your brain to produce whatever art you produce.
Yeah, copy that. Yeah, that's. Oh God, I didn't. Once you started putting it that way, I was like, wait, oh yeah, use it for production because the only reason you would want something like that is if you can make money off of it. And
Oh yeah, yeah. There's always got to be, and even if it wasn't money, if you want to
some
get
game,
past a capitalism society, people still seek a gain. So it might not be money, but whatever gain at the time, whether it's fancy rocks or status, you know, uh, the ability to track back your thoughts also, track back your processes and everything quickly can become copy. You know, what if we had who was like, let's say we take some of the best engineers, some of the best mathematicians, and just keep feeding that through an algorithm after they die, you know, see what they come up with. Why upload them anywhere, you know? If you have the algorithm that created them, what more do you need? Boy, that got harsh quick. Too hard to handle there, huh?
no, that's crazy. Yeah, just thinking about that, like if my art would be irrelevant at that point, and that's nuts.
Oh yeah, I mean, if
Or
I could
music
license,
or whatever, or like
oh yeah,
you know that website that's every combination of every letter and every possible in the English language, and it's continuous. It's an algorithm. It's just continuously being written, and theoretically, in that algorithm is every text, every song lyric, everything that will ever be written is included in it.
I mean, I've never heard of it, but it does
Yeah,
sound interesting.
it's interesting to consider that this one algorithm contains all of Shakespeare's work and theoretically all of the work he could have written if he didn't die. You know, like
Yeah.
it
Yeah, but
contains literally everything. No, it's
that's
not like
just a
this.
new
It's not like a written
mathematical
page
way of.
with everything.
Well, especially once you include algorithms, that's just math. That's just a new mathematical way of saying 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters will write Shakespeare.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's more so there was something with the website that was like you can actually everything has like a coordinate or something like that. Or like you can access it from a encrypted, like not encrypted, but well, encrypted might be the right word because it's compacted. Uh
Well, yeah, there's some encryption to impaction. To make something smaller,
exactly. And that's what I was thinking. It's
you're
like
changing and
it's like a zip
simplifying
file,
data.
right? Yeah. A zip file is just encryption, right?
Yeah, it really is, albeit it's a very easy encryption. It's well known.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, part of encryption is taking that data and changing it to a different form. And, the faster encryption is, knowing that, hey, this is repeated data. We can simplify this into this and just say it repeats X times and blah, blah, blah.
Like
That's very,
raid 0 or whatever, or like raid 1, and then like getting more complex raid 10 and 5 for computers like that. You know what I'm talking about with multiple
well,
hard drives in one system.
yeah,
The way
yeah.
it'll like divide data amongst them efficiently.
That's a whole different direction. I would say that's more of just load balancing and stuff,
Well,
and
but not
balancing
well.
it
Yeah,
out
that's true
for
for RAID
easy
0, but
recovery.
like RAID 5 and 6, right? Isn't it like you store your data on 4 hard drives, and if one of them goes out, you have your data. But it's not like it's 4 redundant hard drives. You know, you
No,
still get the
yeah.
capacity that you would if you had 2 or 3 of them. So it's just I think there's something, and that's just neat technology, and it just reminds me of it. That's of encryption. It's not the same, not even close, because encryption is basically just factoring, and that's neat too.
Oh, it's very fascinating. Um, and one day I think it might find its way into being illegal.
Encryption.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be illegal. I think it will be impossible.
There's that too. There's definitely the argument that when computing power is so great, breaking any encryption's nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's
Um,
the thing with quantum computing and the looking forward into the future of quantum computers is they are really, really good at that one thing that computers are bad at. Humans are actually better at factoring certain kinds of factoring, and that kind of factoring is exactly what helps with encryption. Humans are actually better at it than computers are. Just like straight arithmetic ones and zeros computers are bad at that kind of calculation. And so quantum computing, I can't remember exactly what it was, but my brother's going into the field and he was talking about it. He was saying that that will essentially end encryption because the computers will just, it's not that they're more powerful, it's just that they function in a completely different way. That it will break normal computer encryption. And I don't understand it because I'm not a quantum theorist and definitely not a quantum mechanic of any kind. Like I don't I don't even know how a processor really works, so I'm not going to understand how a quantum computer works. um, but yeah, he explained it to me, and it sounded neat when he was talking about it. And that's kind of cool. I don't know. He wants to go into the field. He's currently has a degree and works for Intel, but he wants to just because he's bored, he wants to learn like quantum computing because it's like breakthrough. It's a breakthrough field rather than what is becoming essentially a dead field.
yeah. Well, then the question too with that is, they say it'll break, but no one says, well, If I build a strong wall, someone will build a better hammer, So now you're building a better hammer. Someone's going to build a better wall. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cyclical.
So that'll always be a cat and mouse because, if we learned how to write things and then someone was like, well, I want to write things, but I want other people not to know what I've written. Ironically, I would, a lot of ciphers didn't come about instantaneously. A lot of them were war driven. And then
Oh,
beyond that.
absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't know what'll drive that innovation other than the innovation for privacy.
Privacy won't exist soon enough.
Yeah, that's the great thing is it probably will. A lot of sci-fi predicted we'd have a lot of stuff by like the mid what is it, 21st century we're in? 22nd?
Well, yeah, 21st. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it predicted mid 21st and onward after a lot of turmoil we would have a lot of newer shit.
We have yet to see the symptoms of a species that has outlived its planet.
Um well, yeah. That's it's either until we get out into space, it's really either a do or die thing, isn't it? You can either outlive it and experience it as it's happening until we hit a point where we can exit this planet easily and
Never look
find
like
other planets,
yeah.
and come across one where it's happened already.
We will reach that point before we come across another one that it has happened already.
Yeah, I definitely.
Because I mean, we're
definitely.
already overpopulated. We already have famine as an issue. We already can't support enough food for the amount of people on the planet.
When I was younger, I believe that side of it when I was younger. I thought to myself all the time, famine and can't support. But on a landmass wise, I believe it might be a little less. It might be a little different now. But the last time I had that sort of thought, someone laid out the math that you could fit every person on a quarter acre of land. Each person would get a quarter acre, and it would fit on the island of Australia and still have land left over. Thus leaving the rest of the planet for farming, etc. I think it'd be I don't know, it might be a little risky of an existence, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to deal with that traffic, you know.
The problem is it's a compounded issue. It's you also have like the fact that um, oh, all of our bananas are the same species. If
Yeah,
that
oh
gets
yeah,
wiped out,
that,
we're out of bananas. And that's not just true for bananas. That's an example that a lot of people know about, but that's true for literally like a lot of our plants that we eat commonly in the U.S. If you buy something
yeah,
from Walmart, it's probably of one species, and that
yep.
species will probably get fucked at some point.
Oh yeah, dude, the monoculture issue is crazy. Have you ever seen people were up in arms when Tesla was cutting down trees out in Germany to build a factory? And then you get the local Germans going in and going, no, it's a tree farm. It's terrible for the environment already because it's a monoculture tree farm. It's just grown because it grows up quick and fast. And, and you look and it doesn't have any diversity to it. One disease, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, because we broke nature. We broke the cycle of natural selection. We
Oh,
fucked up.
definitely.
And there's not really
Uh,
any. There's no way it could have gone on without breaking it. You know, it's the problem is it literally we just can't support enough production. Well, like there's just not going to be enough production soon, like 20 years.
yeah. Oh yeah, it won't take long for us to hit that point. I'd say we're gonna run out of usable water because we do waste it on. You know, you're talking about the one single species. Let's look at the Hass avocado. For how much water goes into that fucking one little fatty fruit? You've drained California to grow that and almonds. Um, and then the funny thing about that is the places where that would grow easier and um, would have less issue, we just ignore doing it. Guess what? Almonds. We grow like a shit ton in California, and almonds are pretty cheap now. I think it was like it's one of those desert lands. I don't want to get that one wrong, because there's connotations there, but it's one of those contested desert lands. Grows avocado, not avocados, but
I
almonds.
appreciate the way you navigated that, even though I would never be offended. It's cool.
Well, but they grow it. They can grow the almond better. But instead, we've said, no, this should be one of those uh, cash crops of the United States, and now you got California just dumping water to grow it. Avocados, originally grew in what was it?
I mean, leave it to California to grow avocados. Just saying.
I mean, but look how much water they use on it.
I
The
know, but
aquifers being drained, and where's that
it
water?
literally doesn't even make sense. It's just backwards logic. Let's take one of the driest places in the U.S. and use its water on avocados.
I think part of the problem with that is, and it's the fucking inability to be humble as humans. When that happened, that whole situation with California and the farm that's there is California has experienced 100 years of wetness. And before that, geologically, it was a dry place, was it not?
Yeah, because of the mountains or whatnot.
Yeah. It was a dry place. But we said, shit, this place is amazing. And we just fucking built and built and built, and we keep moving there. We keep moving there. People keep moving there. Now they're moving out for political reasons to places like Texas. But before that, it keep moving there. The weather's beautiful, this and that. Ignore the fact that you can't get a glass of water at a restaurant because, it's always on water rationing. So that's an amazing testament to the human race's lack of humility.
A lot of memes. I'm from Texas, so there's a lot of memes where about essentially just go back to California.
Well, I think it was Rogan who said, "Listen, I like these policies too, but don't come here and try to get these policies going again. It's why we are leaving California, and now you guys are coming here and voting those same exact problems back in. The same reasons you've left somewhere.
Yeah.
It would be like leaving a country that's war torn and going as soon as you get there. You know what? We need another war.
Yeah.
So,
leaving your war-torn country to go riot in the street of another.
Yeah. Well, that's actually happened now, has it not?
Probably.
I think the Swedes experienced that.
I mean, it would be a European country. They're basically just states.
They are states. It's hilarious in a way. We left that, started up our own system where things were states, and then Europe was like, "We like that idea." I
Yeah,
mean,
I think it's hilarious. Oh,
I
that
mean,
worked for them. I guess we'll do it.
yeah, yeah, and it is after like a massive major war. Don't get me wrong, that became a thing. Uh, but now look at it, you got things that are super productive, super wealthy nations, and they're trying to keep afloat these other ones who they're like a kid brother who can't stop going to the bookie.
Yeah.
Uh, Greece is like that. It's got a lot of things not going for it, and it's constantly got to be fixed.
Greece is fucked.
It's not great.
I mean, to put it lightly, just Greece is fucked.
I mean, where do you get that definition?
Inflation.
Inflation, everything, lack of jobs, terrible. And then this stuff, this past year, and it'll probably be another year of it, that lack of tourism probably won't help them. So we'll
Yeah,
hear
probably
again
because
about
their
them on
country's
the.
fucked and they don't have any tourism because their country's fucked.
Yeah, so we'll probably hear about them being a bankrupt
Honestly,
country again.
it's not just the COVID thing. Like, people probably have just been traveling there less in general.
Yeah, definitely over the years. Um, I know the population left too. So they're sort of, I think they also deal with an aging population crisis.
Yep, because no one wants
So,
to stay there.
so it's like a twofold deal there.
I'm sure it's
But
very common as you grow up in Greece to leave Greece.
where I live now, that's what a lot of people said growing up too. Is you gotta go. Fucking, they always complained about the brain drain.
Yes.
Because Midwest cities they can't compete with coastal cities. Or they couldn't compete with California, and now California's got to compete with like Texas and Nevada. Both,
Texas has everything. Texas could live on its own.
yeah, yeah, it does. It does have a lot going on for it.
Only state with its own constitution.
How do you feel about that living in Texas?
Oh, I fucking don't like Texas, but I'm not like outright. Well, I guess there actually. I'm not right, but I'm not like left leaning either. So
Well, yeah, center. I
yeah,
think we discussed that before. Pretty center.
it's pretty much. I think if you're not moderate or in the middle in some way, you're probably an idiot.
I make that argument too. I go, too far in either direction, and it's a problem. I also make the argument whenever it's someone in charge and everyone adores them, there's probably a problem around the corner. Um, but that's neither here. I mean, just in general, what don't you like about Texas?
Well, it's actually more so the climate and stuff like that. Like I just wish it were colder.
You wish it were colder. It's like
Yes.
30 or 20 degrees outside. Uh, and with how the everything's warming, the weather's changing. It's mostly gone from snow here and there, and snow to I made this comparison today. It's starting to become like a little mini Washington. Um, it just rains and then freezes.
Kind of. I thought about going to Washington to be honest, but not because. And then I was like, oh well, I don't want to live. I don't really want to live in Washington. I don't know. There's like problem. I don't know. I always hear about them in the news. You know what I mean? I don't want to say anywhere that I hear about in the news too often.
What do you mean? Which Washington? We're
Washington,
talking.
like
The
The
state,
state?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you see of them in the news?
It's always like I don't know. Maybe it's just like Seattle. I don't know.
Well, Seattle had a long run this past summer news coverage. It was mostly peaceful.
I mean,
Mostly
I've been to
peaceful news
Seattle.
run. So then what would dissuade you against watching? I don't understand what you would have saw in the news that was so terrible.
Uh, I don't know. I don't even particularly remember. I just feel like
Huh, did I disconnect? No.
no, I just don't. I don't know how to describe it or what exactly makes me feel that way. I can't recall.
You can't recall.
I
And
can't
then your
recall.
your issue with Texas is the climate. It's not the other parts of the climate. It's just the weather isn't nice.
Oh well, no. It's partially just my whole family lives here, and I don't want to live anywhere near my family. It's partially just like um I don't know. So some of the traffic issues. I mean, that's not going to fix moving most places, but um,
The traffic issues. Um,
oh yeah, dude, it's bad.
yeah, no, there's a guy, he's Rob the Road guy on YouTube, and he describes because he's in Texas, I'm guessing, and he travels over into Cali and stuff, and he does all these little lessons on like how lights work and grades a road, and really great channel to just sort of veg out in the background. Um, Highly recommend it. And one of the things he describes with Texas is that you have the highway, and then you have these feeder roads that go along it. You can just pop on this feeder road, get off at a light, grab a sandwich, and get right back on. Instead
Yeah,
of having exits, spread out. So instead of having condensed areas of uh, a commerce, these you just have commerce completely along the fucking thing. you
100%.
know
Yeah, it's literally on it. It's you
yeah,
get
yeah, which
directly
is
off the highway onto into a Whataburger parking lot.
yeah, yeah, which is I don't know who thought that was a great idea.
Well, and the problem is if you buy a business there and they eventually expand the highway, you're fucked because they're
They
just going to take it.
What do you mean they eventually? You say this like it's a consistent thing?
Yeah. Oh, it happens. It's 100. It's almost assured. Like, eventually, they're going to expand the highway.
So you need to make enough out of it to be in the green and ready to roll in
I
case
even
they
have
do.
family experience with it. My granddad owned a dealership, and my dad ended up having to. He was going to sell the dealership and wanted to sell the dealership, but he kind of couldn't because they're like, "Well, we told you about this 5 years ago. We're building a highway here, and here's a little bit of money, not even close to what the property should have been worth, and be on your way. Good luck."
Wow.
This happens all the time. It's just like a regular part. I forgot what it's called. There's a word for it, but it just
Eminent
happens all.
domain.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, yeah. And it's regular. It just happens all the time.
That's insane. And what do? Just build more of these fucking feeder roads?
No, they widen the highway and then build the feeder road further out. Or a lot of times, so they'll build if they expand even further, they'll build a full like there's a highway under the highway that you pay extra to go on.
A highway under the highway.
Yes, it's like multi-level highways.
Oh my god. This sounds awful. What if a fucking earthquake happened?
Oh, they don't. But we do have tornadoes.
Yeah. Well, it's insane.
Yeah, it's just you have different issues. Like we don't get earthquakes here. Like you can. Like I've felt one before in my life, but it wasn't bad and it was not a big deal. But tornadoes have affected me and people I know personally. Like they happen all the
So,
time where I live.
yeah, yeah. Well, Texas is mostly fucking flat, and then you got what? Two different
Well, it's
high and low
mostly
pressure
really the
systems.
north that has it's part of the belt. But yeah, the north area, the whole north of Texas, you get tornadoes. And then the south of Texas, you get hurricanes.
Well, you did say Texas has it all.
Oh yeah, we have pretty much every biome in one state.
Really? Well, there's no
Not
snow
literally.
where is.
I'm not literally. I'm just exaggerating. Emphasis.
And onto the rainforest later.
That's insane.
Wish I
I
had
don't
more
know.
mountains.
I live in a state where people say the highways are designed pretty well comparatively. Um, I do know from experience that a lot of that expanding and widening and that really doesn't. It just more cars will fill that. That's it. When you add more highway, more people use it. You know.
Yeah.
And then you
Well,
have
hopefully, I honestly wish we could just find a way to not have cars and highways at all.
well, and that's one of the better cures: trains, rails, public transport. You know, it's not complex. It's
Well,
not at all.
that's what we did before. Everyone had a personal car.
So
Wasn't
that
necessarily
ironic
buses or trains, but it's
for his feet. Well, I mean, Cali, back to Cali, they actually had bike highways,
they had what?
which bike highways. So you could go from if you lived up in the hills, you could ride a fucking bike highway. You ride a bike into work, into downtown, etc. These big wooden highways for bikes, which to me, yeah, it sounds great. And then after you work, you gotta ride back up a fucking hill on a bike. I don't know how that worked. Maybe people were more fit at the time. I mean, that's insane. I think if I had to wake up every morning and the ride into work was fast and a breeze, and then I had to fucking chug it uphill. Oof. You never heard of the bike highways?
Um, not really.
It's
Sorry,
a,
I
it's a.
was
You're having trouble with the nightmare, huh?
yes, yes. I
And
think
I'm
that
out here just
with
having a full conversation with you.
yeah, it's pretty difficult at times. Like anytime I
Uh,
want to uh, think of something a little bit more complex in response, finding a way to word it without losing my train of thought is a lot more difficult.
it's good for you though. It's good for the brain.
It is.
Yeah,
It's like a little puzzle.
yeah, yeah. Supercharge those neurons and whatnot. Speaking of that, how did you find the CC?
I don't even know to be honest. Probably just standing in the GE.
We do love spamming the GE, don't we?
I mean, it was a long time ago. It was like a year and a half ago, but I lurked for a while and didn't play RuneScape full time. So
Well, I don't think anyone. Most people aren't playing full time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just take I'll play for a month. It was I'll play for a month and then take a 3 month break.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's I'll play for 3 months and then take a month break.
Well, now you got a Minecraft server.
Yeah, and then now I'll be splitting my time between them, so I'll get burnt less quickly too.
Yeah, I have just setting it up, and Making the same mistake. I've made the same mistake like 8 times. Every time I've been trying to get those permissions right, I forget to hit the add button. So I'll pop into updates and it'll say 0 updates, and I just go, well, that's interesting. Well, I guess that's right though. and then and then I'm sitting there, and people are like, "Oh, I can't do this." Well, I just updated those permissions. So it's taken me like a good long time to realize that I need to hit the add button, and it's really depressing because it's not a once or twice mistake. It's like 8 times now.
Hmm. I was trying to get
Yeah,
my friend on the server. I don't know if he's still stuck in the end or not, but I think
no,
he.
that should be fixed too. I mean, the end does now have a warp, so.
Yes.
But I think I fixed a lot of the death mechanics. After I realized I need to hit the add button. And that's been a whole learning experience, learning how to set up those permissions and save them correctly, and figuring out what might accidentally give someone something they shouldn't happen. That's that's been a whole long thing. I don't even know how to describe it.
Frustrating.
Yeah, well, it's good though. It's just like we were describing with the puzzle and everything. It is a little bit of a puzzle. Now I'm getting to a point where I can do things and not have to do all this setup and do crazy things all the time and chase why something isn't working, why something is working. Hmm. You got 13 more minutes, man.
13 minutes.
Yeah, you just got to come up with something to say for 13 more minutes.
Um.
Well, you know what? We talked about this art. What sort of art do you do?
Okay. Well. Oh well. So we can break into that. I make jewelry.
You
Uh.
jewelry.
Yeah. I'm a metalworking and jewelry major.
Oh wow. So no matter what, you could work at like a jeweler.
Yeah, I could. It would, I could get a job selling jewelry, because I know like the terminology, and I don't currently have past sales experience, but I don't think that that would be that big of a deal.
No, you just sales is like it's no longer. I don't know. People make it like it's this huge big thing, and in my experience, it's mostly you know, oh, this is what you're looking for. Well, this is it right here. Really, that's it. Having that terminology down, that's it.
Well, yeah,
There's
a lot
people
of
out there.
it's dealing with people though. Like a lot of times, the customer will know exactly what they want, but then they really don't know exactly what they want, and you're almost entirely sure that they're not going to be happy with what they're choosing, but you can't say anything, and they're probably going to be upset with it, and you know that they're probably going to be upset with it. But that's may
Yeah.
just be maybe I'm just being judgmental, maybe I'm not fit
Well,
for work.
it's not even that. People will have an idea of what they want, but they don't know how to term it in a way that'll get it. If they did, they would have just popped that in a Google search and they wouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true, true. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, not everyone. Some people don't even know how to use Google.
yeah, that's a whole thing too. I deal with
My
that
mom
in that.
asks me how to do literally everything, and every single time I answer, just Google it. And you'd think one of these days she'd start thinking, oh, maybe I'll just Google it.
So, what I'll say there is the ability to Google things and the ability to Google things efficiently are way different skill sets.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, having grown up with it, you have an idea of how to Google and get to the and parse out the information that's unneeded. Your mom didn't experience it as much.
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean, it was given your age and her age, she's probably what, 40s, 50s at most.
Oh, yeah, whereabouts?
So she would have experienced a lot of it, but it wasn't like life or death school wise, which is not really life or death. The meaning's very little.
Well, yeah,
But when
and
you're younger, the meaning's high.
well, and consequently, we're expected to learn how to use this tool, just as they were expected to learn how to use a typewriter or something.
Well, yeah, expected to learn how to cite and look up information in the library and
Dewey Decimal
cite where they
System,
got it. Yeah.
how to
Which,
write in cursive.
realistically, are you about to say you know the Dewey Decimal System?
Oh no, I don't.
Which, realistically, having had that internet access, if I threw you in a library and said, okay, answer these questions and cite how you did it, you're going to be lost.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I did learn how to use a library when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I could pick it back up pretty quickly.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But not to the level of skill that someone who depended on that when they were writing papers is
Oh
going to
no,
have.
for sure. My mom would probably be better at it than me.
Yeah.
Um, well, and yeah, there's also the thing with being on the internet as you're aging, even if you do grow up with it, that helps. But there's also I read like some paper when I was taking a psychology class that was essentially talking about how as you age, you are worse at discerning irrelevant information from relevant information as quickly. So you can't determine if something is not important.
Yes.
So it means that, and from to me, that means that on the internet, you're seeing all these ads and stuff. You don't know what's real, what's not. You see it in like it pops into your vision, and it takes more of your attention away from the thing you're trying to do because
Yeah.
you just have less of the ability to ignore those things.
Which is, in a way, it's a muscle. And it's a muscle that fatigues. Information fatigue is very real. That can happen very quickly. So a billion pop-ups is gonna completely and utterly destroy them informationally. Whereas with that's fucking rain on the back of a duck. It's just flopping right off.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put that.
What, the rain on the back of a duck?
Yes.
Well, that's an old saying now.
That's new to me. That's interesting.
Yeah, which I don't necessarily. I guess ducks are pretty waterproof. I never looked into it, but it's just something I picked up somewhere. Maybe one day we'll have the technology. We can trace what neurons fire when, and maybe trace it back to a date.
Got that memory.
With that, have you ever seen devs?
Oh, sorry. What'd you say?
Well, on that neuron and brain thing, have you ever seen devs?
I can't hear what you're saying. Devs?
Devs, like DEVS.
Oh no, I haven't.
Nick Offerman.
My roommate recognizes what
Yeah,
you
Tom
said.
Shannon.
Yeah, it's got Nick Offerman, and Nick Offerman's a pretty cool guy.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, the little tiny bit of it that I saw seemed to be that guy chasing rebuilding his daughter using the information on his daughter and a quantum computer. I think it's got some other crazy like spy nonsense ripped into it, but that's like that's the little bit I took from it, which would go back to what we were talking about, where you just copy what someone's done and build an algorithm based on it, and now you have them.
Do you think we'll ever reach a point as a species you could just insert a chip and learn new information that way? And just have it in a database already accessible by your mind rather than
Very
having to
much.
go through your fingers to look it up, Like,
Very much.
so there will be some sort of like neural interface. That's definitely part of the future. You see that.
Yeah, well, Elon's working on it as we speak. He
What's his name? Gabe In from Valve has talked about this subject too for VR reasons.
So it wasn't much to it, but I believe I watched it, and I believe he popped a pig up there, and they could detect that it was sniffing and what it was sniffing based on the little chip they had jammed in it. So I mean, how far? Think about it like this: we went from vacuum tubes for computers to microprocessors in 20 years or less.
Yeah.
And right now we can map what a pig's brain's doing and what it's sniffing and figure out, in a way, almost what it's thinking as it's sniffing that. How far of a leap is it from that to to not just receiving but sending,
Are you talking like?
Well, your whole chip idea. I mean, once you create that into an electrical signal that can be rapidly sent, how far from being able to sort of picture what the pig is smelling and seeing via a chip are we from going from picturing to reversing that and sending and making that pig think it's smelling and seeing that as we speak?
Well, it's kind of unpredictable how far we are from that. It's
Oh yeah,
what
I'm not saying I need a direct
to
timeline,
activate
but
neurons in a safe and sustainable way that it doesn't kill the thing that you know.
oh yeah, that's a huge part of it. That's a huge hurdle. But overall, I mean, like I said, we went from vacuum tubes to microchips in like 20 years or less. And now with all that technology to
Human DNA
what?
of human DNA of just DNA in general, but like we don't have a large understanding. But just how far we've come is incredible. Being able
It
to
is.
map at all, like map the whole thing.
Well,
That
I would say it's incredible that you can spit in a vial and get a readout of your DNA and see what things might transversely affect and activate.
you can. I would never do that through one of those
Party
companies
of
like
three.
me or something. And also,
You.
the fact that my family has done it is in itself a security risk for me.
Oh, it's a huge security risk. I mean, you could technically, um, buy them with cash and do it all
Yeah,
sort of
there are
fake name and stuff.
lab settings you can do it in, and that would be more reasonable. I would do it in a lab setting and somewhere where I can know that it's safe in some way. That they do exist. I'm sure it's more expensive. I'm sure it's less convenient,
Anonymity is pretty valuable.
but convenience is more valuable.
I'm a huge fan that anonymity is very important. But I'm also very big on
think
privacy and stuff.
General population convenience is more valuable. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all the security risks we have today. Otherwise, people wouldn't use the internet at all.
Oh yeah, dude. I think and I make that argument all the time with people, and they always go, "I got nothing to hide. I got nothing to hide." And I've tried a billion ways of getting it through to them, the importance of privacy. Like my boss, I said to him once, I said, well, you don't shit in public with the door open, do you? He goes, I don't care, I would. Who cares? And I go, and then like we were talking about it later, and he was like, yeah, we were talking about this. And then I started getting ads on my Facebook for this product. And I said, well, right there. He goes, why? I'm not buying them. It's just ads. I go, but it doesn't matter. That's a database somewhere. It's being built on you. That's gonna know you better than you know you. The story of like Target, some reward system they had predicted this guy's daughter was pregnant before she even missed a period, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah,
And people, they just go, well, who cares? Who cares? You should care. You should care deeply.
yeah. A lot of those though, it's not actually your phone just listening to you. Like if you look something up,
Well,
you
no,
know,
no, that's how the Target thing happened. That happened before, like, that was like in their medium days of Target having some sort of rewards program.
yeah, no,
Uh,
I know, and it's just data collection, and there's no reason why they wouldn't collect that data.
yeah. Well, that data is valuable, and that's the other thing too. Don't even make the security concern. The data is valuable. Why are you giving up something that's valuable? I can hear your roommate in the background.
The
Do you
type
just listen on the speakers?
I'm listening on the speakers now, but the reason you hear them is because my microphone is it's just my webcam mic, so it's actually incredibly good at capturing an entire room of sound, but that's not a good thing in a lot of situations.
No, that could embarrass you deeply.
It hasn't yet, but also I'm not really I'm not like a shameful type of person. Like I don't really care much what people judge me for. Like,
Then why are you worried about your privacy then?
well, and to be honest, I'm not. I'm more talking in a general sense for people as a whole. You know, there
So,
are people who have something to lose, whereas I feel like I don't currently.
so, so you argue in favor of it, but you don't really upstand it.
Currently, yeah, yeah.
Well, but privacy does equal security, though.
Yeah, no, you're right. And like I said, that's to a certain extent. I'm not gonna just disregard completely, but my privacy, like privacy is, and there's different levels of privacy. Certain things I'm gonna be private about. Certain things I'm not. Like I don't. If it's a personal thing that somebody's judging me for, that I don't care about that. But if it's like my financial information or something, then I care. You know, it's like just depends. Like if somebody knows I like, I don't know, Nintendo or something like that, I'm just gonna get more ads for Nintendo. Like it's not gonna mean I'm gonna get hacked, you know, because they know I like Nintendo.
But
You don't want my house.
but a targeted attack can use that information to build a profile of you and what you might use for things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but at that I think honestly that that is a lost cause. There's no way to be completely safe in this situation.
Well, there's no way to have complete privacy, but we can argue that privacy is an important and maybe even a fundamental right.
Fundamental right, sure.
Okay. So you said you would need a list of topics, right? Type.
This guy just said reported because he thinks we crashed him. But honestly, I mean, obviously he was just being ironic, but I was gonna say something funny in response and didn't get a chance because he
oh,
sorry. Uh,
oh god, people are weird. But I just wanted to double back before I hit the end button. You said you would need a list of topics.
well, I don't need one. That's not necessarily the point of a list of topics. But
It's
equally, there was a situation where I was like, like I don't know what to talk about, and that would have been where I personally would want a list of topics. Now you're good at leading me down a line of thought, right? That's something that you're good at, but I don't feel personally like I am, and that's why I wanted a list of topics. It's
Well,
a personal failing, I guess.
I mean, you know what? It's a good idea, especially if you were like trying to fill out an X amount of time.
Yeah.
And not just me going, hey, we started talking about LSD. Let me hit this button here. I
Yeah.
just want to congratulate you because you did an hour and 6 minutes with no list.
All right. All right. I mean, that's good. Feel good about that. It was a good conversation.
Good conversation. I think it was better when we were talking about time dilation and
Everything that happened before you started the button.
That's a problem I have. That's a me problem. I don't know how to describe it. I'm really
What
good.
you need to do is just always be recording.
Oh yeah, dude. I probably missed out a lot of great little topics.
And what was it we were talking about? Privacy?
Well, see, and that's one of the reasons I wouldn't do it. I used to have a rule because I had a ton of space that my phone would always be on record while I was out in public, work, etc. And I live in a state that the party rule says as long as one party knows it's happening, with no rights in public, which ironically, that's such a shit rule because one party has to know it's happening. Well, okay, cool. I'm the party recording. I know it's happening. What a great legal definition there.
In New York.
We're single party consent in Texas.
So that's the same thing. One party just has to know, and that's it.
Yeah, for sure. So
yeah. So what a one-sided rule that is.
In a way, I kind of agree with it because if that wasn't the case, then surveillance cameras would just be completely not allowed.
Yeah, see,
all of the footage would be unusable because you just didn't put a sign up.
Well, you could put signs up that say it's there.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, there's always a catch, Like, there's always a chance some good lawyer weasels out of it or whatever,
But yeah, my state is single party too. And I mean, I'm not disagreeing with it because if I'm out in public or if I'm in a situation like I give someone a ride home or something, I pull out my phone, I put it on the dash, and I hit record. Guess what? There's one version of this story now. There's not two.
Yep.
Not that anything's happening, but you never know, You decide to stab me. I don't got. There's no. Well, maybe he fell out of the car afterwards. No, here's me going. What the hell are you doing with that knife? Ow. Like I have a dash cam. I have a dash cam because some guy pulled out in front of me and they ruled it in his favor, and I'm like, well, this is bullshit. So now I have a dash cam, which ironically I backed into something, and I was like, well, I have the dash cam, and the insurance company knows I do, so I sent them a video, which is literally just me backing up, and you can see it, and then hit something, and then going, oh, fuck. So, yeah, they never say anything about that, but I know whoever reviewed that was laughing like, really, dude? Oh, I had a guy once, he got the wrong key. And so I went to his place to get the key, and he wouldn't meet me at the door. So then I'm waiting out there trying to call him. You know, calling. Finally gets in the car to take off to bring the key up to us, because that was his goal. So I'm behind him the whole time. I walk in front of him when we get there, because I pulled in at a closer driveway. And then he says, "Sorry it took so long. Someone rear-ended me and I had to wait for the police." And I just looked at him like, "What?
What?
Who rear-ended you? Was it me?" I just didn't remember any police. And then as he was leaving, he went out and stopped at the back of his car, looked at it, rubbed it, got in his car and left. And I was like, why did he do this? Absolutely, for what reason? Yeah. Well, anyways, with that, let's call that an end.
Can I be in here?
Yeah, I'm here. One moment.
Lorgeboi,
What up?
there's something you should know about Navi.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
Navi Doodles got them symbols.
Navi Duty's got the what?
That was illegible.
And then he left, didn't he?
Yeah.
Can you use illegible for?
No, that was yeah. It's
Okay.
not applicable.
That made my brain hurt for a sec. I was like, wait a minute, that's not right, is it?
No, it was intentionally incorrect though.
No, I'll transcribe me at the way.
Like, fucking God.
Oh,
No,
no,
it
I gotta know what he said. Because he does that.
What a weirdo.
I'm so lost.
He's not. He's different.
Babe, this is a. Can you join my game and help me?
What are you playing?
Never mind.
Yeah, after this.
There's a weekly challenge
Yeah.
where you like can't see anything on the level. You have to use a torch.
Straight sailors.
For the short term.
Well, that's annoying. You still there?
Yes.
So, he said, Navi Doodles got them snoodles. Which is just as illegible.
Yeah. It's still gibberish.
Yeah. But no, as I was saying, you do always say, not weird, different.
Yeah, not weird.
Yeah, just want to point that out there.
Hey, I mean, I say weird. I just don't think weird is bad. You know,
Yeah,
I've
I
never
don't think
considered
it's-
weird to be
yeah.
an insult, but some people do. So for me to say weird, and I just figured, given that you are also weird, you would probably be on the same page in that
I'm not weird, just different.
regard.
In my defense, I do exist 3 minutes further along. That was an obscenely odd statement, but oh no. But you know, so I'm always a little odd, you know.
I
Ahead of the
think
times.
it's more normal to be odd than it is to be normal.
Well, the base idea of normal is a pretty strange concept.
It's about how the human brain is. There's literally just no, like, there are statistical trends, but there's also that data error. So
Cherry picking.
yeah.
Cherry picking is always a good example. Omega-3 vitamins are an example of cherry picking. They go good for the.
Yeah.
Oh man, well, let me break your heart a little. Let me break your. Let me just break your heart a little bit, really quick.
And I'm gonna live forever
Okay.
because I'm so healthy, taking all my vitamins.
Well, the Vikings, 500 years ago had a saying about that too. Or is it like 700 years ago now? It was a long time ago. Eat right, exercise often, die anyways.
Not this guy, not this cat.
The studies on
this is great.
omega vitamins and fish oil were done on Asian populations who historically ate high amounts of that to begin with, and have no connection in other populations to any added benefit. I.e., they cherry picked the data because the data looked really good in Asian populations.
And we could sell that to people for money.
Yes. And also, when you're in that field, it looks really good to be be in a published journal and have a study that's led to something. It's probably allows you to argue for a better paying job at some point.
So when I'm trying to be the manager at a grocery store, I'll say, y'all know about fish oil? And they'll be like, you're hired.
Well, more of, I would say the direct correlation there would be if you had a published study that said tomatoes grown in October sell better than any time of the year. So if you just say all your tomatoes are grown in October, they might have a higher sale rate, That's some really long lines we're drawing now.
That's some mental gymnastics right there.
Well, it's 2021. Everything's mental gymnastics.
It's a little too real.
Non-leading zeros are significant, right?
I mean, it is, it's not untrue, though. You can't, it's a hard one to argue, isn't it? It's hard to argue that I'm wrong on that one.
You can't be wrong when you're always right.
Well, I'm not always right. I'm rarely right. I don't think anyone's rarely correct. It's just
You know the
happens.
meme I do where I'm like, you know the meme in CC I do, I'm like, you're wrong.
All right, both my teammates died, so I'm gonna hop over to the other voice call so that I can roast them.
Well, we were glad to have you on episode 1. That's what we're going to call it.
Thanks for having me.